Oprah, I'm reaching out to you in response to the Saint A and Childhood Trauma segment that aired March 11th, 2018. I'm a survivor. I've lived my whole life with the devastating impact of PTSD and trauma-induced amnesia. There were bombs of abuse which decimated my family in childhood and throughout my teens. My brother and I were left to struggle on each alone, digging out the shrapnel embedded deeply in our souls. Your segment describes my story exactly. My brother Brian and I are poster children for showing the severe and horrific impact these important issues, incorrectly addressed or wholly unaddressed, create for individuals and communities. As I graze over the script of my life story emerging from a many long decade journey of struggle and triumph, the reality of how powerfully an unseen presence has been with me, traveling all this time throughout the maze of my amnesia, the loneliness and isolation that my trauma caused, and the suicidal urges resulting from it all. It must be told. As I've prepared to tell my story, flashbacks throughout the last 3 years intensified, bringing with them excruciating enlightenment and deeper levels of healing, but also equal measures of chaos to my temporal plane of existence. I give you an example of one that profoundly affected me, so you'll perceive a taste of the story I need to tell to heal myself, my family, and others with similar blood trauma. This flashback happened during the first of several recent encounters with Brian, my brother, after a very long time of not seeing him. My father took me from my bunk bed in the middle of the night where I slept below Brian. He put me in the bathroom, which was in the hallway between ours and my parents' bedroom. I was very young, 4 or 5 years old. He threatened me not to make a sound or leave that room until he came and got me. And I stayed frozen, waiting in the silence broken by noise in my bedroom. Once I was put back in bed, it was Brian comforting me, begging me to be quiet. During the flashback, I was taken back in time and also keenly aware of the present simultaneously. I understood immediately why I began living in my bathroom 8 years ago. It had become my safe place so long ago. As my present mirrored my past, the awareness of reliving the pattern of abuse in the present caused me to need that safe place again. Survival instinct is a very profound and powerful experience to have while fully or even partially present. It is a fire we survivors must walk across to reach the healing that lies on the other side. When I began reaching for the brother I had lost so many years ago, the dam of memory was released because what I found was he looked and sounded just like my father. I was transported through time back to our childhood, all the while present in the now with my dying alcoholic brother. In the fallout years ago, after the smoke cleared, most relationships far and near were severed or mortally damaged. No one understood what happened to Brian and I. We have been lost at sea on our own makeshift raft for decades, feeling we were the lone survivor. But I have come to understand that we are not alone. And through telling the story, I can communicate to all the others who need to hear it too that you are not alone. And by coming together in community, we can heal our blood trauma. You asked viewers in your segment what happened to you. What happened to you? I began rolling that question over and over in my psyche, and my heart broke open. The question elicited an indescribable feeling within me. I'd been asking myself the wrong question, the question I was always asked, what is wrong with you? That night and this last week following your segment, my mind grasped hold of that new perspective for dear life. as I struggle to confront all the issues I am facing. At present, I was unaware how deeply I was triggered to the core by the issues you so meticulously laid bare in your segment. I fell for days into the darkness of suicidal ideations, unable to stop. The movie in my mind, family grieved over my death, asking why. At first, I was aware only of my need to write you, but my attempt at that moment only dragged me more deeply into all the pain in my life. I once again was almost lost in that quagmire. However, as I looked closer at my life, I got clear about the root of the problems that plagued me, often threatening to flood my soul to the point of death. Social issues, leading to and exacerbated by lack of community, are predominantly at the core of all the other issues I face, creating a powerful domino in my life and the lives of others struggling like me. Finally, tears began to flow and pressure valve was released, and I felt sweet relief. This precipitated my letter to you because in your question I perceived an invitation to tell the story I've been so actively searching a way to tell for the past 3 years, and now it's been bubbling up from my soul for much longer as I coped with the various stages of healing, progression, regression, and regeneration. You stated doing the segment changed the way you view life, changed you forever. My mind began to ponder the idea if research changed your life forever, then how much more great have been the effect of all I've journeyed through, lived through it. Because of my trauma, I am hardwired different. The countless hours of therapy, medications, transcendental meditation, practicing presence, and the power of intention through all these years all made cracks in the dam of survival instinct so that I could finally face my family story and thereby unleash its healing power. The moment you expressed the impact your research had upon you, a small impression trickled from mind to heart, then flooded my soul. It's beyond words, but a sense of being whole or complete just the way I am begins to describe it, even with all the issues I face. I cannot tell you how much needed that invisible embrace was in that moment, because I was about to descend further than ever before into the blinding cave of old wounds. The impact your interview had initially was a backlash following my exposure to your segment on trauma. The vicious tormentor, my pain body, revived from the dead, grabbing me and diving into a deeper darkness than ever previous. However, this time the light of presence traveled with me into the dark void to help let go and heal more deeply. I not noticed the drastic shift in my presence as I lived in my bathroom year after year, processing life in my unique way. Oprah, even though it triggered me at first, your segment came to me like a rescuing white horse breaking through when I was about to give up the fight for life to suicidal ideations. After almost 5 years remission brought on by the extracurricular alternative therapies I grabbed hold of, when 20 plus years of Western psychological and pharmacological avenues failed to relieve my suffering, I was feeling quite hopeless on the 11th of March. After fighting so long and so hard against the current of my fate, only to come full circle, ending up where I began again, about to turn 50. My health is so deteriorated now from it all, not having insurance to properly address things and unable to work. I felt I had lost the fight and was ready to die. It has been over 2 years sitting with no identity, living in my bathroom for 8 years, coming out when life demanded at first, less and less as everything crumbled around me. We survivors need more than food or basic necessities in adult life to tell our stories and set their healing power free. Though I am insecure of even survival necessities at present and must merely rely on unseen providence to sustain me day by day, I'm writing to you with the request that you help me tell my story. I began to pray for the means years ago after each encounter, sharing what lessons I did remember from the trauma-pocked life and resulting spotty and unstable record I have been left to work with. Over the years, as I shared small segments for teaching, I was consistently urged to write a book, every time for my own healing and that of others. However, the means by which I am to share my experience has been slow to come into view. The last few years, the Cold Heart's journey, it turned out to be simple, but it wasn't fork and easy, has emerged even as my health has deteriorated and death began seeking me. I've reached out to discuss it with President of Hope TV, Amazing Facts, Roma Downey, and spoken to a producer at the Dr. Phil show, Keith Cuono. And now I come to you as a result of the segment you aired about childhood trauma in my continued search to write the book Malidoma Somé, and I have spoken many times about. My story's unique edge comes from the evolution of my awareness of the unseen presence that guides and many times took over so I could save someone's life or my own as a young child, and continues to relentlessly pursue my soul's salvation even now. Because of my close walk with trauma, the presence has become more real to me than the physical world I live in. It has merged with me and I am it. The closer I am to the edge, the closer the providence comes to me, reaching out with healing wings, infinite comfort, and divine grace. It is the world I live in, and every human being holds it, whether they know or not. We are it collectively, and the more we are deeply rooted there, we draw it forth from other beings. It is the difference in my mind of being the Word or a believer in the Word. My favorite author describes having a mental assent to the truth while denying the power thereof. As my journeys progressed, I learned from the revelation of providence why I need to tell this story, to bring ultimate healing and understanding, to make sure my children do not continue to carry the burden, this blood trauma, and perpetuate its pain. My bones ache more and more each day to release all the knowledge and wisdom which reside deep within. Furthermore, I need to use my story to reach for those still suffering with the confusion and isolation we survivors experience before death finds me again. The purpose in my heart is to share my journey with you, Oprah, before I die. I want to preserve my story before I leave this world. I nearly died from health issues last November, and I am not physically well now. When I brushed with death a few weeks ago, I was shocked. I might die younger than my father, whose alcoholism led to death before 60. We survivors of early childhood trauma do die early, often to suicide. I had chosen an extremely health-conscious life in so many areas, by God's good grace avoiding alcoholism. But Dr. Perry explained why I may die before my father, despite doing so much the opposite him in your segment. Decades ago, I chose a healthy, predominantly vegan lifestyle, and yet here I am. Trauma can either be a gift or a curse. By the grace of God, I offer my story as a talisman for suffering humanity, infused with the tender love of the unseen presence that is within all of us, underwriting each story of trial and triumph. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. I'll leave you with the poem written March 17, 2018, during the process of healing your segment triggered. I'm grateful for your life and the gifts you have brought into the world. Oprah. Sincerely, Rosemary Crystal Starr.